Hi artists! Now that you've taken good photos with a high quality camera, it's time to take your images into Photoshop to edit, crop, and resize them. You want to get your images onto your desktop, like these three I see here. Then you're going to open Photoshop. The easiest way to do that is to go up to the spotlight, which looks like a magnifying glass, to type in Photoshop, and then to click on the application, which has a blue icon with a PS for Photoshop. If you don't have it running, it might take Photoshop a couple of minutes to start up because it's a very large program. But it should look something like this. Then you're going to locate those images that you just saved on the desktop by going up to File, Open, locating the images and selecting them. And it should open up each image in its own window. Now we're going to start with this image because it's a simple black and white ink drawing. The first thing you want to do is adjust the colors. You'll notice that the white of the paper is not quite white. So you're going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Curves, and then click on the white eyedropper and click on something that should be white in your image. And that's going to actually balance the white and take out any color that might have been cast from the lights or maybe a shadow. You can also adjust the black by clicking on the black eyedropper and clicking on something that's truly black. You have to find a part of the image that really is black, not dark gray. So that looks really good for this black and white drawing. So we can click OK. You can also play around with the curves, which I'll show you again in another image. All right, let's try another one. This one's a little better example, or a little more tricky example, because it has grayscale and color. Same thing, I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Curves. If you're good at remembering shortcuts, the shortcut is Command M. I'm going to click on the white eyedropper and find something that's white. That's a little bit too light. Another trick is to place a white and a black piece of paper next to your artwork when you're photographing it. That's a little bit better. There we go. That looks pretty good for the color there. And then our last image is a grayscale drawing. This can be really tricky because of trying to select the blacks. So here for the white, I'm not going to select the paper because the paper itself is not white. I'm going to select this little tag down here. And then for the blacks, I need to either find something that's really dark black. That looks good. Sometimes by selecting this, you can lose some of your darker grays. So that's where this curve comes in. You can actually bend this line, and it gives you a little more subtlety in the gradations. And I just like to play around with it to see what looks good. There we go, where it lifted up some of those grays so you can see the actual mark making there. Remember, you don't want to adjust your image beyond what it actually looks like. The readers for the College Board are very familiar with Photoshop, and they know what an over edited image looks like. So you just want to make your image look good and pop and look accurate to what the actual image looks like. That to me looks pretty good right there. All right, so now that we've adjusted our images, it's time to crop them. And hopefully when you're taking your photos, you did your best to get a straight on angle. But you'll see even with this one that sometimes it's a little skewed. You're not exactly 90 degrees from the artwork. So luckily Photoshop has this really cool tool called the Perspective Crop tool. If you don't see it right away, it's under the crop tool, so you might have to click and hold there. And what you do is you click on the corners of the artwork, and then when you hit return or come up here and hit the check mark, it crops it and it adjusts any skew that you might have had. And you always want to make sure that you get all of your artwork in there, or you intentionally leave a border. There we go. That one looks pretty good, like this. Let's do the other ones. This one you can see it's off a little bit more, so we're going to again use perspective crop. Click right on the corners of the image. Hopefully your paper was flat and not curled up. And see that pops it into straight on and reduces any of that distortion from the photo being off. Now on this one, I'm going to intentionally leave a border. Maybe you broke the border on purpose, or maybe your artwork has an irregular edge. In that case, you just want to try to follow along and have it parallel to either the edges of the paper or what would be straight on. Don't include your signature because they don't want any identifying information on your artwork. If you do have your signature like on a painting, I can show you how to use the clone stamp tool to remove your signature. And ultimately, it's not a huge deal. They just ask you not to have that on there. All right, you can see that one is straight on now. And let's get rid of that right there. So you can zoom in, you can see a little bit of that signature. This is the clone stamp tool, and what it does is it copies one part of the image onto another part. So I hold Option to set my target, and then when I use it, it copies, where you see the plus sign, it copies that part of the paper onto this other part of the paper, and I can get rid of it. All right, that looks pretty good too. Now it's time to resize. I'm going to go up to Image again and go to Image Size. And you want to double check that the resolution is at 72. That's because the screens that the readers will be looking at your artwork on, that's the maximum resolution for the screen, is 72 ppi. And then the largest dimension here, whether it's the width or the height, you want to change it to 780 pixels. It should automatically change the other one to keep it proportionate, as long as constrained proportions is checked right here. Click OK. I should really downsize the image. That way it's easy to upload and it's optimized. That's as big as the readers are going to be able to see it anyways. So one more time, you go up to Image, Image Size, check that it's 72 resolution, and change the largest dimension to 780. The only exception to this is if you have something that's really long, either really tall or really wide, then you want to set the smallest dimension. Let's use it on this one because it's a little bit long. Image, Image Size. So here, since it's a little bit long, I'm going to set the width to the minimum, which is 530. And that makes it a little bit bigger, but that gives you the best chance of the artwork coming out clear. If I were to downsize the height here, the width might be too skinny. And this artwork actually would be okay, but in case you have something that's really long, maybe your skateboard, or maybe you've put two images together, you have a panorama, something like that, you would want to make sure that the smallest dimension wasn't any smaller than 530. Okay. And then you can see when I zoom in, that still looks pretty good. The readers are not able to zoom in and look at the details, so it doesn't really matter. As long as you're looking at it and it fills the screen and it looks good, that's all that they're going to see. All right, last step is to save these artworks. So you're going to go up to File, Save As. You need to save it with your last name, your first name, and then the title of your project. And because you've downsized this image, end it with SM for small. These are not going to be good images to print for the art show. You need to keep the high quality version of the image to do that. And if it's not already a JPEG format, you want to click on Format and choose JPEG. Just ignore all the other options here. That's all you need. Click Save. Make sure it's on the maximum quality here. Click OK. And now your image is ready to upload. Let's do it on one more. This one we've already resized, so File, Save As, last name, first name, title, SM, make sure it's JPEG, and save it. Oh, obviously yours would be different. You wouldn't have this problem because your titles would be different, so I'm just going to click Cancel. But that's how you do that, and now they should be saved on the desktop. If you'd like to create a folder to organize your work so it doesn't get confused with other people's work, You can do that, and now they're ready to upload. Good luck!